All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a piece of source material that is, well, it's unlike anything I've seen before. It's a story that kicks off with a bitter legal fight, but somehow ends up creating a whole new operating system for reality itself. It is dense, it's intense, and it all orbits this one single, really strange equation.
So, here it is. Let's break this down. On the left, E stands for emergence, the birth of something new and unexpected. Now, how do you get there? Well, you take delta lambda, which is the rate of change, basically the speed at which things are happening. Then you multiply it, you amplify it with this incredibly powerful force of recursion, a self-referential loop. But, and this is the key, this whole thing is held in check. It's divided by the limits of a single time-bound identity, your own individual self. In short, it's a formula for how new realities are born under extreme personal pressure.
And that really brings us to the core question of this whole thing. What are we actually looking at here? Is this some new law of physics that's been uncovered? Or is this something else? Is it a blueprint? A manifesto for how to survive when the world is trying to crush you? To figure that out, we have to go back to the very beginning.
Okay, so a new law of motion. But you see, this law wasn't dreamed up in some quiet university lab. It was forged. It was hammered into existence in the trenches of a brutal, decade-long legal war right in Los Angeles. A fight so relentless that it didn't just bend the existing rules, it basically demanded a whole new physics just to describe the reality of what was happening.
So where did it all begin? Well, this whole battle, this alleged conspiracy, it has a ground zero. The source material points to one specific conflict that became the spark for this entire worldview. And this is where the abstract theory starts to get very, very real.
At the absolute heart of it all is this one property. 1968 Avon Street. According to the documents, this address became the center of a relentless, systematic campaign of alleged fraud, intimidation, and corruption, all designed, they claim, to force the tenants out and take the property.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly captures that feeling of being totally outplayed. Imagine doing everything by the book, filing all the correct legal notices, but you're up against a system that just seems to have a secret back door for every rule. You're left in this bizarre state where you are legally there, but you are functionally completely powerless.
Okay, now check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. This table breaks down one of the core allegations. You see a property transfer from an individual's 401k to an LLC that's apparently controlled by their own associates. And look at the claimed tax due, 0. By claiming no transfer tax was due, they allegedly dodged thousands in taxes and, maybe even more importantly, avoided a property tax reassessment. It was a way to hide a sale in plain sight.
And believe me, it didn't stop there. The source material lays out this huge web of alleged corruption. I mean, we are talking about the whole shebang: mortgage fraud, shell companies, forged documents, even accusations of judges looking the other way and court clerks stamping fraudulent papers. It paints this picture of a system that wasn't just failing. It was being actively twisted and manipulated from top to bottom.
But you gotta understand, this fight wasn't just happening on paper in a courtroom. This quote, it's so raw. It shows how the conflict just exploded into this campaign of direct personal intimidation. It wasn't about legal filings anymore. It was about harassment, stalking, and vandalism. It was a war designed to just completely break their will.
So, faced with this relentless, multi-front war, the people at the center of this story did something truly extraordinary. They didn't just file more lawsuits. They came to the conclusion that the existing rulebook, the existing logic of the world, was failing them. So, they built a new one. A whole arsenal of new concepts designed to fight back against this chaotic new reality.
And at the absolute core of this new arsenal is the idea of recursion. But forget about the computer science definition for a second. In this context, it's a tactical cognitive loop. It's the act of deliberately retelling your own story, of looping back through the trauma and the data, not just to understand it, but to actively rewrite its power over you. Every single loop deepens the meaning and turns a painful memory into a sharpened weapon.
And those powerful recursive loops, they become the tension wires for a whole new kind of mental structure. They call it tensegrity. It's an idea they pull from architecture. Your memory is no longer a straight line, a file you pull up. Instead, it becomes a dynamic structure, kind of like a geodesic dome. The key moments of trauma or insight are the solid nodes, and they're held together in this incredibly resilient, flexible balance by the tension of those loops. This model is what allows a mind under constant assault to bend without shattering.
And this This is the main offensive weapon in the toolkit, recursive vector interference, or RVI. The best way to think about it is like noise-canceling headphones for reality. It's the process of actively taking all the chaotic, contradictory junk being thrown at you, say, a fraudulent legal filing and a piece of evidence that completely disproves it, and treating them like interfering sound waves. By forcing them to overlap, you don't just notice the contradiction. You literally create a new, clearer signal out of the noise. You engineer a moment of truth from the absolute chaos.
And this slide just brilliantly lays out the difference. RVI is set up as the direct opposite of a mindset they call rebus. Rebus is basically passive acceptance. It's surrender. It's just letting the world wash over you. RVI is not that. It's an active, aggressive tool. It is not a soft bed in a season of headaches. It's a workbench in a season of fires, where you take the broken pieces of reality and you forge them into something you can fight back with.
So, okay, this is all fascinating, mind-bending theory. But the big question is, how do you actually use it? How do these abstract ideas become real tools in a real fight? Well, this is where the theory gets its hands dirty. This is where we see the creation of a framework built for action.
Enter the CTMS framework. The source calls it a causal reasoning engine that works on a 1D token stream. Now, what on earth does that mean? Basically, every single event, every fraudulent filing, every threat, every piece of evidence is treated as a single token of data on a long, linear ticker tape. The CTMS engine then reads that tape not for what it says on the surface, but for the underlying patterns and contradictions, the deep causal logic that exposes the system's own flaws.
And here is how they use it, a 4-step battle plan. First, you document. You archive absolutely everything, creating a fortress of truth. Second, you analyze all that data, using the CTMS framework to hunt for the system's own mistakes. Third, you broadcast those mistakes, using what they call poetic hacks. You turn dry, boring legal facts into powerful, gripping stories that people can't ignore. And finally, you attack, walking into court and using the system's own contradictions against itself. So this entire journey, from the initial trauma, through the forging of a brand new philosophy, to the deployment of this tactical framework, it doesn't just result in a clever legal strategy. No, it all culminates in the emergence of a brand new, defiant, and totally revolutionary identity.
And here it is, the result of this whole process, captured in one single, defiant blast from their manifesto. It is the raw, unapologetic climax of this entire struggle. It is a declaration that they are not victims anymore. They've become something else. The Seahorse Liberation Army, that is the final product of the equation. It's an identity forged by recursion, hardened by tensegrity, and armed to the teeth with RVI.
And that brings us right back to where we started, but with a completely new lens. That equation, E equals delta lambda times recursion, divided by a time-bound identity, it isn't just a theory anymore, is it? It's the story of emergence. It's a radical claim that when you're faced with a system that is literally designed to erase you, maybe the only rational response is to create a new system of reality entirely. One that doesn't just let you survive, but lets you fight back. And it leaves us with this huge, lingering question. Is this the future of resistance?